Vextal stood before the massive viewing screen in his ship, watching the blue and green planet slowly rotate below him. Earth, the locals called it. Terra 3 in the galactic records. A small, unremarkable world on the outer edge of a spiral arm that most civilized species ignored completely. But today, this insignificant planet would make him rich. The bounty hunter checked his data pad once more. The contract was simple and paid extremely well. Capture one living specimen from the newly discovered species called humans. Deliver it to Research Station Gamma 7 in the Zephyrian sector. Collect payment. Move on to the next job. Vextal had been hunting across the galaxy for over 2 decades. He had captured dangerous criminals, deadly predators, and rare creatures for wealthy collectors. This job seemed almost insulting in its simplicity. According to the galactic database, humans were barely intelligent. They had only just learned to leave their own planet in crude metal ships. Their technology was primitive. Their weapons were laughably weak. "Why do they even want one of these creatures?" he muttered to himself as he read the species report again. The file showed basic information. Humans were bipedal mammals with limited lifespans. Average height was shorter than most galactic species. They had no natural weapons like claws or venomous stings, no thick armor plating, no ability to change colors or phase through solid matter. They seemed to have evolved from some kind of climbing animal, which explained their strange, grasping appendages. Most interesting was their classification level. The Galactic Council had marked them as Class 7 primitive. That meant they were suitable only for basic labor or scientific study. Many species at that level were used for dangerous mining operations or cleaning toxic waste. It was not a kind fate, but Vextal had learned long ago not to think too deeply about what happened to his targets after delivery. He activated his ship's advanced scanning systems and began looking for a suitable target. The sensors could detect individual life forms from orbit, analyzing their biological patterns and technological signatures. Most humans seemed to cluster together in large groups within massive structures made of metal and stone, cities, according to the database. Vextal preferred to work alone and avoid complications. Large groups meant witnesses, security systems, and potential rescue attempts. Better to find an isolated specimen far from help. After several hours of scanning, he found what he was looking for. A single human life sign was moving slowly through a mountainous region covered in thick vegetation. The area showed no signs of advanced technology or communication networks. Perfect. The hunter engaged his ship's cloaking device and descended through the atmosphere. His vessel was completely invisible to human detection methods. They're primitive. Radar systems might as well have been cave paintings for all the good they would do. As he flew lower, he could see the target more clearly through his ship's cameras. A lone human was walking along a narrow path between tall trees. It carried a large pack on its back and seemed to be moving with purpose toward higher ground. The human appeared to be male, based on the biological scans, and was within the acceptable age range specified in the contract. Vextal landed his ship in a clearing several kilometers away. He would approach on foot to avoid any chance of detection. His species, the Keltharans, were naturally suited for stealth work. Their skin could shift colors to match their surroundings, and their movements were completely silent when they chose to be. He gathered his equipment. A portable scanner to verify the target's biological markers, restraint devices that would keep the specimen secure during transport, a neural disruptor to keep it unconscious during the initial capture phase, and a personal shield generator, just in case the primitive human somehow posed a threat. The thought almost made him laugh. What could a creature with no natural weapons and primitive technology possibly do to harm him? Following the human's trail was easy. The creature made no attempt to hide its passage. Broken branches, disturbed soil, and even small pieces of colored fabric marked its path clearly. Vexatal had tracked far more dangerous prey through much more challenging terrain. As the sun set, he caught up to his target. The human had made camp in a small clearing next to a stream. It had constructed a temporary shelter using synthetic fabric and metal poles. A small fire provided warmth and light. The creature sat beside the flames, heating some kind of prepared food in a metal container. Vextal positioned himself downwind and activated his camouflage. His skin shifted to match the dark trees and shadows around him. He was now completely invisible to human senses. He observed his target for several hours, noting its behaviors and routines. The human seemed relaxed and unaware of any danger. It consumed its heated food slowly, occasionally looking up at the stars visible between the tree branches. At one point, it retrieved a small rectangular device and appeared to be recording spoken notes. "Day 3 of the hiking trip," the human said in its strange language. Vextal's translation software converted the words automatically. "The weather has been perfect. Clear skies and cool temperatures. I think I needed this more than I realized. Work has been so stressful lately with the new reactor design project. Sometimes you just need to get away from computers and equations and remember what the real world feels like." The human continued talking to its device for several minutes, describing its journey and expressing something that the translator called gratitude for the peaceful environment. Vextal found this behavior puzzling. Most intelligent species only spoke when communicating with others. Why would a creature talk to itself? Eventually, the human extinguished its fire and entered its temporary shelter. Vextal waited another hour to ensure his target had fallen asleep, then approached silently. The capture was almost too easy. The human lay completely defenseless inside its flimsy shelter. Vextal activated his neural disruptor, and the creature slipped into an even deeper unconsciousness without so much as stirring. He confirmed the biological readings matched the contract specifications, then carefully lifted the surprisingly light form. Within minutes, both hunter and prey were aboard the ship and departing Earth's atmosphere. The entire operation had taken less than 6 hours from start to finish. Vextal allowed himself a moment of satisfaction as he set course for the delivery point. Another successful hunt. Another hefty payment waiting. He placed the unconscious human in a standard containment cell designed to hold dangerous specimens. Force field barriers, reinforced walls, minimal furnishings. Everything needed to keep a captive secure until delivery. As his ship entered hyperspace for the 3-day journey to Research Station Gamma 7, Vextal felt confident this would be one of his easier jobs. After all, what trouble could one primitive human possibly cause? Deho woke up slowly, his head pounding like he had been hit by a truck. The last thing he remembered was falling asleep in his tent beside the mountain stream. Now he was lying on a cold metal floor in what looked like a small room made entirely of smooth gray walls. He sat up carefully, fighting off waves of dizziness. The room was about 3 meters wide and 4 meters long. There was no visible door, just solid walls on all sides. A faint blue light came from somewhere above, though he could not see the source. The air smelled strange, like metal and something sharp he could not identify. Most people would have panicked. Deho had always been different. Even as a child, when other kids were scared or confused, he would start asking questions and looking for patterns. His engineering training had made this habit even stronger. Problems existed to be solved. Mysteries existed to be understood. He stood up and walked to the nearest wall. It felt warm to the touch and hummed very quietly. When he pressed his ear against it, he could hear something that sounded like electricity flowing through circuits. The surface was perfectly smooth, but there were tiny variations in the humming sound at different points. Deho pulled off his hiking boots and used the metal eyelets to tap along the wall. The sound changed in 3 specific places. He found similar spots on each wall. Whatever this room was, it was not just a simple metal box. There were systems running behind these walls, complex systems. He emptied his hiking backpack onto the floor. Compass, first aid kit, portable camping stove, water purification tablets, emergency whistle, multi-tool, camping rope, LED flashlight, and a small solar charger for his phone. Not much, but Daeho had learned to work with whatever materials were available. The multi-tool had several useful components: screwdriver, knife, wire cutters, and small pliers. He started by carefully examining the corners where the walls met. The joints were nearly perfect, but there were microscopic gaps. Something had to be holding this structure together. After 2 hours of careful investigation, Daeho found what he was looking for. The blue light above was not just for illumination. It was some kind of energy field that held the entire room together. When he held up a piece of metal from his compass near the light, it created tiny sparks. He used his knife to carefully remove a small wire from inside his flashlight. Then he wrapped one end around a metal piece from his first aid kit and slowly raised it toward the light source. The sparks became stronger. More importantly, the humming in the walls changed pitch. This was definitely some kind of energy containment system, and if it was a system, it could be understood. If it could be understood, it could be modified. Daeho worked for 6 more hours, carefully testing different combinations of metal objects near the light source. He discovered that certain arrangements of his metal camping gear created feedback loops in whatever system was controlling the room. The humming would get louder or softer. Sometimes the walls would feel warmer or cooler. Finally, he found the right combination. A piece of wire from his flashlight connected to the metal ring from his water bottle held at exactly the right angle near the light. The humming stopped entirely for almost 10 seconds, then returned with a completely different tone. That was when the alarm started. Vextal was reviewing star charts in his navigation chamber when the warning sounds began echoing through his ship. Red lights flashed across his control panels. His computer system was reporting a containment breach in holding cell 7. That was impossible. The containment cells were designed to hold creatures far more dangerous than primitive humans. The force field barriers could stop a charging Kraxan battle beast. The walls could withstand explosives. No species classified below Class 5 had ever even damaged a Kelthera cell, much less triggered a containment warning. He ran to the holding area, expecting to find his equipment malfunctioning. Instead, he found something that made his blood run cold. The human was standing calmly in the center of the cell, surrounded by pieces of dismantled camping equipment arranged in complex geometric patterns. Sparks of energy were jumping between the metal objects and the containment field above. The force field itself was flickering in and out of existence every few seconds, but most disturbing of all, the human was not trying to escape. It was studying the energy patterns with the focused attention of a scientist conducting an experiment. When Daeho saw the alien appear outside his cell, he was not particularly surprised. He had figured out hours ago that he was on some kind of spacecraft. The subtle vibrations in the floor and walls matched what he would expect from advanced engines. The air recycling system had a rhythm that suggested artificial atmosphere management. What did surprise him was how the alien looked. It was tall, maybe 2.5 meters, with skin that seemed to change color slightly in the shifting light. 4 arms, each ending in hands that had too many fingers. Large eyes that reflected light, like a cat. Definitely not human, but not entirely frightening either. "Hello," Daeho said in a calm voice. "I am Daeho Kim. I assume you are the one who brought me here." Vextal stared at the human in complete shock. In 20 years of bounty hunting, no captured specimen had ever greeted him politely. Most were either unconscious, terrified, or trying desperately to attack him through the containment barriers. "How did you do this?" Vextal asked, gesturing at the flickering force field. "Your containment system uses a feedback loop to maintain the energy barriers," Daeho explained, as if he was talking to a colleague about a work project. "I created a harmonic resonance using the metal components from my camping gear. The system is trying to adjust to compensate, but it cannot find a stable frequency while my improvised circuit is active. The alien hunter felt something he had not experienced in decades. Fear. Not fear of physical danger, but fear of the unknown. This primitive creature had just explained advanced energy manipulation theory using words his translator could barely convert into concepts he understood. "You are supposed to be a Class 7 species," Vextal said quietly. "I do not know what that means," Deho replied, "but I am a nuclear engineer. I design power systems for a living. Energy is energy, regardless of the technology used to control it. May I ask what this ship is powered by? The engine harmonics suggest something more advanced than fusion, but I cannot identify the specific energy source." Vextal took a step backward. This was not how the mission was supposed to go. The human was asking him technical questions as if they were equals, as if the creature expected to have a conversation instead of cowering in terror. "Why are you not afraid?" the alien hunter asked. Deho considered the question seriously. "Fear would not help me understand my situation or find solutions to problems. You have advanced technology, and you captured me for some purpose. Being afraid will not change those facts, but learning about your systems and your motivations might help me find a way to improve my circumstances." For the first time in his career, Vextal had no idea what to do next. Over the next 2 days, something strange happened aboard Vextal's ship. The alien hunter found himself returning to the holding area again and again, not to check on his prisoner, but to continue their conversations. Deho had questions about everything. How did the ship's gravity work? What kind of fuel powered the engines? How did the life support systems create breathable air from nothing? But he did not just ask questions. He offered ideas. "Your atmospheric recycling system is very efficient," Deho said during one of their talks. "But I noticed the air feels a bit dry. On Earth, we learned that adding a tiny amount of moisture to recycled air makes it much more comfortable to breathe. It also reduces energy costs because the system does not have to work as hard." Vextal had never thought about air comfort. Air was air. It kept you alive or it did not. But when he checked the system logs, he discovered that his atmospheric processor did use more power than it should. The human might be right. "How do you know these things?" Vextal asked. "Your species has barely left your home planet." "Knowledge is knowledge," Deho replied with a smile. "Physics works the same way everywhere in the universe. Energy, matter, forces, and reactions follow the same rules whether you are on Earth or traveling between stars. The technology might be different, but the basic principles are the same." This made Vextal uncomfortable. He had spent decades thinking of himself as superior to the species he hunted. His technology was advanced. His knowledge was vast. His skills were deadly. But this human talked about universal principles, as if intelligence itself was universal too. "Tell me about your life," Deho said on the second day. "What made you become a bounty hunter?" No one had ever asked Vextal that question before. Clients hired him to do jobs. Other hunters competed with him for contracts. Authorities avoided him when possible. But no one had ever wondered about his personal history. "My species does not form family bonds the way others do," Vextal explained. "Keltherans are independent by nature. We work alone. We live alone. When I was old enough, I left my home world and found work that matched my skills." "That sounds lonely," Deho said quietly. "Lonely is a human concept. Keltherans do not experience loneliness. Do you have friends? I have business contacts. Do you have a home? I have my ship. Do you have anyone who cares whether you live or die?" Vextal was quiet for a long time. "No," he finally said. "But that is normal for my species." Deho looked at him with something that might have been sadness. "That is not normal for humans. We need other people. We need connection. We need to belong somewhere with people who care about us, even when we travel alone, like I was doing when you found me. We always have people waiting for us to come home." "Who waits for you?" Vextal asked. "My sister Yunji. My co-workers at the nuclear plant. My neighbor Mrs. Park, who always worries when I travel alone. My nephew Minho, who wants me to teach him about engineering. They are not just people I know. They are my family, even though we are not related by blood. Vextal tried to understand this concept. How do you choose family? You do not choose them. They choose you, and you choose them back. It happens when people care about each other for no reason except that they want to. When someone is happy, because you are safe. When someone misses you when you are gone. When someone helps you not because they want something in return, but because your well-being matters to them. The alien hunter had never heard of such a thing. In his society, relationships were based on mutual benefit or shared goals. The idea of caring about someone for no practical reason seemed impossible. On the third day, everything changed. Warning alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Vextal rushed to his navigation station and found that they had encountered an unexpected problem. A massive asteroid field blocked their path to the delivery coordinates. The asteroids were moving in chaotic patterns, probably disturbed by a nearby gravitational anomaly. His ship's computer calculated thousands of possible routes through the field. All of them had collision probabilities above acceptable limits. The navigation system recommended waiting 6 hours for the field to clear, but that would make him late for the delivery deadline. Late deliveries meant reduced payment. In extreme cases, they meant canceled contracts and damaged reputations. Vextal had built his career on being reliable and efficient. He could not afford to wait, but he also could not afford to crash his ship against a drifting asteroid. What is happening? Deho asked when he noticed the alarm sounds. Vextal explained the problem without thinking. It felt natural to talk to the human about complications and challenges. Over the past few days, Deho had become the closest thing to a conversation partner he had ever had. "May I see the navigation data?" Deho asked. "Why would I show classified information to a prisoner? Because I might be able to help. I have experience with complex three-dimensional navigation problems. Nuclear reactor design involves calculating particle paths through constantly changing magnetic fields. The math is very similar to asteroid avoidance." Vextal hesitated. This was completely against every rule of professional bounty hunting. Prisoners were cargo, not consultants. But the human had already demonstrated knowledge that exceeded his expectations, and the alternative was either waiting 6 hours or risking a catastrophic collision. "If I show you this information, will you try to escape?" "Where would I escape to?" Deho asked reasonably. "We are in deep space. I cannot fly your ship. I do not know how to get back to Earth. My best chance of survival is helping you solve this problem so we can continue safely to wherever you are taking me." The logic was sound. Vextal activated a portable display screen and showed Deho the navigation data. What happened next amazed him. The human studied the asteroid movement patterns for less than 20 minutes, then began suggesting route modifications. Not just one route, but a sequence of course changes that would thread the ship between moving obstacles like a needle through fabric. "Try this path," Deho said, highlighting a route that looked impossibly complex. "The asteroids are not moving randomly. They are following predictable orbital mechanics around the gravitational anomaly. If we time our approach correctly, we can use their movement patterns to help us instead of fighting against them." Working together, they calculated a route that would not only get them through the asteroid field safely, but would actually save time by using gravitational assists from the larger asteroids. The ship's computer confirmed the route was not only safe, but more efficient than their original course had been. As they flew through the asteroid field, Vextal realized something had changed. For the first time in his adult life, he was not alone. Someone was working beside him, sharing the challenges and helping solve problems. Someone who seemed to genuinely care whether they succeeded or failed. It felt strange. It felt uncomfortable. It felt wonderful. "Thank you," Vextal said, as they cleared the last of the asteroids. "You are welcome," Deho replied. That was actually quite enjoyable. I like solving problems with other people. It makes the work more interesting and the solutions better. Vextal was beginning to understand why the human had talked about chosen family. He was also beginning to understand why that concept frightened him so much. Research Station Gamma-7 was a cold, sterile place that floated in empty space like a metal tumor. As Vextal docked his ship, he felt an unusual reluctance to complete his mission. The 3-day journey had changed something inside him, though. He could not name what it was. Dr. Kolith met them at the docking bay. She was a Zephyrian, tall and thin with pale blue skin and large black eyes that showed no emotion. Her species was known for their scientific minds and complete lack of empathy. They viewed all other life forms as research subjects or useful tools. "You are 12 hours late," she said without greeting. "We encountered navigation difficulties," Vextal replied. "No matter. The specimen appears to be in good condition. Follow me to the processing center." As they walked through the station's corridors, Vextal noticed other holding cells. Inside were creatures from various worlds, all looking frightened and confused. But what disturbed him most were the other humans. He counted 6 of them in different cells. They wore simple gray clothing and looked tired, but their eyes were alert and intelligent. One was a young woman who appeared to be the same age as Daeho. When she saw them approaching, she stood up and spoke. "Are you Korean?" she asked Daeho in perfect English. "Yes. My name is Daeho. I am from Seoul. I am Soo-jin. I was taken from Busan 3 weeks ago. Are you hurt? Have they treated you well?" Vextal was surprised that his translator could handle the rapid conversation between the 2 humans. He was even more surprised by their immediate concern for each other, despite being strangers. "I am fine," Daeho assured her. "What is this place? What do they want from us?" Dr. Kolith activated a force field to separate the humans. "No communication between specimens," she said coldly. "It interferes with behavioral studies." She led them to her laboratory, a vast room filled with monitors, testing equipment, and data storage systems. On the screens were detailed analyses of human physiology, psychology, and capabilities. "Your species has provided us with fascinating research opportunities," Dr. Kolith explained to Vextal while ignoring Daeho completely. "Humans are remarkably adaptable. They show unusual problem-solving abilities and display complex social bonding behaviors." "What kind of research?" Vextal asked, though he was beginning to suspect he did not want to know the answer. "Primarily industrial applications. Humans can work in environments that would kill most species. Their small size allows them to access restricted spaces. Their social nature makes them easier to control when properly motivated, and their short lifespans mean replacement costs are minimal." Daeho listened to this conversation with growing understanding and horror. "You are planning to use us as slaves," he said quietly. Dr. Kolith looked at him as if noticing him for the first time. "Slaves is an incorrect term. You will be industrial workers performing tasks that are too dangerous or difficult for more valuable species. Your survival is not required, but your cooperation will make the process more efficient." "What about the ones already here?" Daeho asked. "What happens to Soo-jin and the others?" "They will be transferred to mining operations in the Kepler system. The work is dangerous, but humans seem remarkably capable of surviving in hostile conditions. We have calculated that each specimen will provide an average of 18 months of useful labor before replacement is necessary." 18 months. Vextal felt something cold settle in his stomach. The humans he had seen in the holding cells were not research subjects. They were condemned to slow death in toxic mines. "However," Dr. Kolith continued, "we have discovered some unexpected benefits from human workers. The female specimen from Busan has somehow improved our life support efficiency by 23% simply by suggesting modifications to our air filtration systems. We are considering keeping some specimens here for maintenance and optimization tasks." She showed them a display screen with Sujin's modifications. Even Vexatal could see that her changes were brilliant improvements to systems that had not been updated in decades. How did she do this? He asked. Humans appear to have an unusual ability to see problems from new perspectives. They question assumptions that other species accept without thinking. It is a troublesome trait in most situations, but occasionally useful. That night, Vextal was assigned guest quarters on the station while the delivery was being processed. He could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Deho's face when Dr. Kolith had explained the fate waiting for him and the other humans. He found himself walking through the station's corridors, eventually ending up outside the holding area. The night shift guards were minimal, and his hunter's instincts allowed him to avoid detection easily. Deho was sitting quietly in his cell, but he was not sleeping. When he saw Vextal approach, he smiled slightly. "I wondered if you would come," the human said softly. "Why?" "Because you are not like them. You have spent the last 3 days learning about me, talking with me, working with me. You know I am not just a specimen or a tool. You know I am a person." Vextal activated the cell's communication system so they could talk without alerting the guards. "Your people will be sent to die in mines." "I know. I also know you are bothered by that fact." "Why does it bother me? I have delivered hundreds of species to various fates. I never cared before." Deho was quiet for a moment. "Tell me about your childhood. What was it like growing up on your home world?" "Caltharans do not have childhoods the way other species do. We are born with basic knowledge and survival instincts. We mature quickly and leave our birth communities as soon as we are capable." "Did anyone ever take care of you when you were sick?" "Caltharans rarely become sick." "Did anyone ever teach you things just because they wanted to share knowledge with you?" "Knowledge is acquired through necessity and experience. Did anyone ever celebrate your achievements?" "Achievements are their own reward. Did anyone ever comfort you when you were afraid or sad?" Vextal was quiet for a long time. "No," he finally said. "I am sorry," Deho said, and his voice carried genuine sadness. "That is not a life. That is just survival. It is the only life I have ever known. But now you know there are other ways to live. Ways where people care about each other. Ways where someone's happiness matters to you and your happiness matters to them. Ways where you are not alone. Why are you telling me this? Because in 3 days, you have shown me more kindness and respect than most humans receive from their own species. You listened to my ideas. You trusted me to help solve problems. You treated me like an equal, even though I was your prisoner. That tells me you already understand what family means, even if you have never experienced it yourself." Vexatal felt something breaking apart inside his chest, a wall he had built around his emotions over decades of isolation. "I do not know how to be part of a family. No one knows how at first. You learn by doing it. You learn by caring about people and letting them care about you. You learn by choosing to stay with people instead of leaving when things get difficult. What if I am not good at it?" "Then you practice and get better. That is what family means. People who help you become better than you were, and who you help in return." As Vextal walked back to his quarters, he realized he had to make a choice. He could complete his delivery, collect his payment, and return to his old life of isolation and profit. Or he could do something that went against every instinct he had developed as a hunter. He could choose to care about someone other than himself. For the first time in his life, the choice was easy. Vextal did not sleep that night. Instead, he spent the dark hours planning something he had never done before. A rescue mission where he would not get paid. The station's security was designed to keep prisoners inside, not to stop someone from breaking them out. As a professional hunter, Vexatal knew exactly how to exploit those weaknesses. But this time, he was not working alone. Early in the morning, he returned to the holding area. The guard rotation had changed, and the new security officer was a young Centaurian who looked bored and sleepy. Perfect. I need to conduct a final behavioral assessment of my specimen before transfer, Vextal told the guard, using his most official voice. The Centaurian barely looked up from his entertainment device. Make it quick. Processing starts in 2 hours. Vextal activated the communication system and spoke quietly to Daeho. I am going to help you and the others escape. Daeho's eyes widened. Why? Because you are right. What they plan to do to you is wrong. And because I have spent 20 years alone, and I do not want to be alone anymore. What do you need me to do? There are 7 humans, including you. I can disable the security systems and the force fields, but I need someone to coordinate the group and guide them to my ship. Can you do that? Yes, but what about you? If you help us escape, you will be a fugitive. You will lose everything you have built. Vextal thought about his ship, his reputation, his career. Then he thought about spending the rest of his life knowing he had condemned innocent people to death for money. I will lose everything that does not matter, he said. And maybe I will find something that does. The plan was simple but dangerous. Vextal would create a distraction in the station's main power core, causing emergency systems to activate throughout the facility. During the confusion, he would disable the holding cell force fields and guide the humans to his ship. The distraction worked perfectly. Alarms began blaring as power fluctuations cascaded through the station's systems. Emergency lights activated. Security forces rushed toward the power core to investigate the malfunction. Vextal reached the holding area and found the guard post empty. He quickly accessed the security controls and began shutting down containment fields throughout the section. Daeho was ready. As soon as his cell opened, he ran to Sujin's cell and helped her out. Together, they freed the other 5 humans and began moving toward the docking bay as Vextal had instructed, but something went wrong. Commander Thexnor, the station's security chief, was smarter than Vextal had expected. Instead of sending all his forces to investigate the power malfunction, he had kept a reserve team to guard the critical areas. When the containment fields failed, he immediately understood what was happening. Seal all docking bays, Thexnor ordered over his communications system. We have a prisoner escape in progress. Heavy security doors began sliding shut throughout the station. Vextal and the humans found themselves trapped in a corridor between the holding area and the docking bay, with armed guards approaching from both directions. This way, Vextal called, leading them toward a maintenance shaft that would bypass the sealed doors. But as they reached the shaft entrance, energy weapons fire erupted around them. Commander Thexnor appeared at the far end of the corridor with a squad of heavily armed guards. "Surrender now and your deaths will be quick," he announced. Vextal pushed the humans behind him and activated his personal shield generator. The energy barrier could protect them for a few minutes, but not long enough to reach safety. "Can you get to the ship without me?" he asked Daeho. "Not without you," Daeho replied firmly. "This is not a debate. If I stay and fight, you might have time to escape. And then what? We do not know how to fly your ship. We do not know how to get back to Earth. We need you." Sujin stepped forward. He is right. We all escape together, or none of us escape at all. The other humans nodded. Agreement. 5 strangers who had been prisoners an hour ago were now willing to risk their lives for each other, and for the alien who was trying to save them. Vextal felt something he had never experienced before. These people were choosing to stand with him, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. They were choosing to be a team. "Then we fight together," he said. The battle was short, but intense. Vextal's shield generator could not protect all of them from every angle. Energy blasts began getting through. Sujin was hit in the shoulder. One of the other humans, a man named Jin Wu, was struck in the leg, but the humans did not run. Instead, they began working as a coordinated unit. Daeho used his engineering knowledge to identify weak points in the corridor's structure. Su Jin, despite her injury, helped the wounded Jin Woo find cover. The others created distractions and helped Vextal target the enemy positions. When Vextal's shield generator finally overloaded, they were still outnumbered and outgunned. Commander Thexnor advanced with his remaining guards, confident that the escape attempt had failed. That was when the power core exploded. Vextal's original sabotage had been more effective than he planned. The emergency repairs had failed, and the station's main power system went critical. Emergency lighting failed throughout the facility. Life support systems began shutting down, and most importantly, the security doors unlocked as the computer systems lost power. In the chaos and darkness, Vextal and the humans ran for the docking bay. Behind them, they could hear Commander Thexnor shouting orders and trying to organize pursuit teams. They reached Vextal's ship just as backup power began restoring light to the station. As the engines powered up, security forces poured into the docking bay and began firing at the departing vessel. But they were too late. Vextal's ship cleared the station and jumped into hyperspace before the pursuit ships could launch. As they flew through the safety of hyperspace, Vextal looked around his ship's cabin. Su Jin was bandaging Jin Woo's injured leg with supplies from the medical kit. Dae-ho was helping the other humans understand the ship's life support systems. Everyone was talking, checking on each other, sharing water and food. His ship had never been so full of life. "Where are we going?" Su Jin asked. Vextal realized he had not thought about that. For 20 years, every destination had been determined by contracts and profit. Now he was flying a ship full of people who depended on him, and he had no idea where to take them. "We are going home," Dae-ho said quietly. "Where is home?" Vextal asked. "Wherever we decide it is. Together." For the first time in his adult life, Vextal was not alone, and for the first time ever he understood what the word home really meant. 6 months later, Vextal stood in the kitchen of a small house in Seoul, trying to understand how humans made something called kimchi pancakes. The recipe seemed simple enough, but every time he attempted to flip the pancake, it fell apart. "You are pressing too hard," Yoonji said patiently. She was Dae-ho's sister, a doctor who had welcomed an alien bounty hunter into her home without a single question beyond, "Does he eat the same food we do?" "My hands are not designed for delicate cooking," Vextal replied, concentrating on the pan. "Neither are mine," said Jin Woo from his seat at the kitchen table. His leg had healed perfectly, but he still preferred sitting when he could. "But Yoonji taught me anyway. It just takes practice." The house was full of people, as it was every Sunday evening. Su Jin was in the living room, helping Dae-ho's nephew Min-ho with his science homework. The other rescued humans, Kyung-soo, Hye-jin, and Tae-min, were setting the table and arguing good-naturedly about which movie to watch after dinner. Mrs. Park from next door had brought homemade soup and was explaining to anyone who would listen why Vextal needed to eat more vegetables. She had appointed herself his unofficial grandmother within a week of meeting him. "How is work going?" Yoonji asked while she prepared vegetables. "Very well. The South Korean government has been extremely interested in my knowledge of galactic technology. They have offered me a permanent position as a technical consultant." Vextal finally managed to flip a pancake without destroying it. "I never expected to enjoy teaching others. That is because you never had students who wanted to learn from you specifically," Dae-ho said, entering the kitchen with his nephew. "Min-ho, show Vextal what you calculated." The 8-year-old boy proudly held up a notebook covered in equations. "I figured out how much energy your ship's hyperdrive uses for a 1-light-year jump. It is actually more efficient than fusion. Rockets for long distances!" Vextal studied the boy's work with genuine amazement. The calculations were not just correct. They showed insights into hyperspace mechanics that some adult engineers never grasped. "This is excellent work," he said seriously. "Have you considered studying advanced physics?" Min-ho beamed with pride. "Dae-ho says you might teach me about gravity manipulation when I am older." "If you continue studying this hard, I would be honored to teach you everything I know. The conversation was interrupted by Su-Jin calling from the living room. Everyone, come quickly. There is something on the news about space. They gathered around the television, where a reporter was describing an unusual situation. 3 alien ships had appeared in Earth's solar system, demanding the return of a rogue hunter and his stolen cargo. The aliens claimed that a member of their species unlawfully interfered with a legal salvage operation, the reporter continued. They have given Earth's government 72 hours to produce this individual or face economic sanctions. Vextal felt his stomach drop. He had known this day would come eventually. The Galactic Council did not tolerate fugitives, especially ones who had cost them valuable resources. They are talking about you, Su-Jin said quietly. Yes, I knew they would eventually track me here. What do they want? Minho asked, confused by the adult tension in the room. They want to take me back for punishment, and they want to recapture all of you for the mining operations I prevented. The room fell silent. After 6 months of safety and happiness, the past had finally caught up with them. We will not let them take you, Daeho said firmly. How can you stop them? They have advanced weapons and faster ships. Earth's military cannot fight the Galactic Council. Maybe not, said Mrs. Park, surprising everyone. The elderly woman rarely participated in serious conversations. But they are not fighting Earth's military. They are fighting Earth's people. Over the next 3 days, something remarkable happened. The story of Vextal and the rescued humans spread across social media, news networks, and government channels. Instead of fear or anger at the alien presence, humans responded with something the Galactic Council had not expected. Solidarity. Protests formed outside government buildings, demanding that Vextal be granted citizenship and protection. Scientists and engineers publicly praised his contributions to human technology. Religious leaders spoke about the moral obligation to protect those who had sacrificed everything to do what was right. Most importantly, ordinary people began sharing their own stories. Stories about adopted family members who had become precious parts of their lives. Stories about refugees who had contributed to their communities. Stories about the human belief that home is not about where you came from, but about where you choose to stay and who chooses to keep you. When the alien ships arrived at Earth, they found something unprecedented in galactic history. An entire planet willing to go to war to protect a single fugitive who had become one of their own. The Galactic Council representatives were confused. According to their databases, humans were supposed to be primitive and easily intimidated. Instead, they found themselves facing a species that seemed to consider attack on one of their adopted members as an attack on all of them. This individual violated council law, the lead negotiator explained to the United Nations Assembly. He must be returned for justice. He prevented the enslavement of innocent people, the Secretary General replied. By our laws, that makes him a hero. The specimens were legal salvage under Galactic Council regulations. The people were human beings under Earth's protection, and Vextal is now a human being under Earth's protection as well. The negotiations continued for days, but the outcome was inevitable. The Galactic Council had built their power on the assumption that individual planets would always surrender single people to avoid larger conflicts. They had never encountered a species that would risk everything for the principle that family members are not expendable. In the end, Earth's negotiators proposed a simple solution. Vextal and all the humans he had rescued would be granted full Earth citizenship and protection. In exchange, Earth would share some of the technological improvements that Vextal had helped develop, particularly in the areas of energy efficiency and environmental protection. The Council accepted the deal, not because they wanted to, but because the alternative was a war with a species that seemed to have unlimited capacity for righteous anger when someone threatened their family. That evening, Vextal sat on the back porch of Daeho's house, watching Minho chase fireflies in the garden. Sujin was grading papers at the kitchen table, having found work as a university lecturer in engineering. The others were scattered throughout the house reading, working on personal projects, or just enjoying the quiet evening. "Are you happy?" Daeho asked, joining him on the porch. Vextal considered the question. 6 months ago, he would not have understood what happiness meant. Now he understood it was the feeling of being exactly where you belonged, with people who valued you not for what you could do, but for who you were. "Yes," he said simply. "I am home." Inside the house, Mrs. Park was telling Jinwoo that he needed to eat more vegetables, while Yoonji helped Kyung-soo understand Korean tax forms, and Taemin explained to Hee-jin why Earth dramas were better than Earth movies. The sounds of family life filled the air. Vextal had spent 20 years as a hunter, taking people from their homes. Now he finally understood what he had been taking from them. And he understood why Earth had been willing to fight a galactic empire to prevent it from happening again. Some things were worth more than profit or power or even safety. Some things were worth everything. Family was one of those things. As the stars appeared in the darkening sky, Vextal made a promise to himself. He would spend the rest of his life protecting the concept that had saved him. The idea that home is not a place you come from, but the people who choose to keep you. And he would make sure that no one else would ever have to choose between doing what was right and having a place to belong. After all, that is what family does. They protect each other no matter what. "Especially then," Chief Engineer Park Min-seo said firmly. "Our history is full of people who fought hopeless battles because it was the right thing to do. Sometimes the point isn't winning. Sometimes the point is making sure the next generation has something worth fighting for." The room fell silent as the implications of that statement sank in. These humans, who had just casually dismantled a galactic empire, were prepared to sacrifice themselves completely if necessary to protect others. "You really are different from any species we've encountered," Thalavin said softly. "Maybe," Captain Do-hyun said. "Or maybe we're just what any species becomes when they survive long enough and fight hard enough to understand what really matters." The UES Indomitable departed from Thesara Prime 3 days later, accompanied by cheers from the crowds that had gathered to see them off. As the human ship disappeared into hyperspace, heading home to Earth, the galaxy began to adapt to its new reality. For the first time in recorded history, space lanes were truly safe. Aggressive species found themselves facing not just human military might, but something far more dangerous: human moral authority. The galaxy's most powerful predators had chosen to become its protectors, and that choice changed everything. Vorthak Empire was gone, replaced by member worlds of the Terran Protectorate. Trade flourished as species no longer had to fear conquest. Scientific advancement accelerated as research could focus on exploration and development rather than weapons and defense, and in the depths of space, human patrol ships maintained their silent watch, ready to answer the call whenever someone asked for help. The galaxy had learned that somewhere in the quarantine sector lived a species that treated interstellar warfare like a particularly challenging sport. They were very good at it, but they preferred not to play unless absolutely necessary. The peace that followed would last for generations, maintained by beings who were born for war but chose to fight only for those who could not fight for themselves. When Council Leader Thal Avan was asked years later to describe the day humanity answered the Corvani call for aid, he always gave the same response. "We requested aid from the galaxy, thinking we might receive help from another civilized species. Instead, we awakened guardians we never knew existed. The humans came not as conquerors or saviors, but as neighbors who heard someone calling for help. And that," he would conclude, "made all the difference."